know you've been watching The Last Dance.
Yep.
What do you think about the leadership style of the Michael Jordan?
Well,
What do you think?
I'm going to tell you obviously that we're looking at pro athletes. We're not
Mhm.
looking at college and high school
Yeah.
athletes. And I think that's an important, really first distinction to understand because Jordan and that style on a high school team doesn't work in any possible way.
Yeah.
Um, but there's also a reason that when you hear stories about, um, whether it's Jordan, whether it is um, Tiger Woods at the height of his
Mhm.
career, um, you can appreciate the greatness that they had. Um, what's always difficult, and I wanted to mention Larry Bird in this in just a second for a different reason. Um, Jordan obviously is the greatest player that I've ever seen in my life.
Mhm.
Now you can put this generation's guys up there. We can argue back and forth, and that's always fun.
Yeah.
My dad will talk about Kareem or Wilt Chamberlain, and I never saw
Mhm.
those guys play live, and I can't do that comparison. But this is what I saw in front of me, and this is the best player I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Um, what is difficult sometimes is to have them, and throw Kobe in this mix also,
Mhm.
um, so demanding of themselves, so demanding of perfection of themselves, that at times there's an unwillingness to accept the fact that the people around you just aren't as good as you are.
Yeah.
Like, dude, how'd you turn that ball over right there? Well, yeah, the interesting thing has been when they did the John Paxson episode,
Mhm.
when him against the Suns in '93, or Steve Kerr being open in '97 and '98. The willingness to trust that your teammates that you know are not as talented as you, but if I get them the ball in the right situation, they're going to do their job too. That really was kind of one of the big takeaways I've had from watching this whole thing is that Jordan, the arc of his career was I can score 60 every night if I want to, but I
Mhm.
can't win unless I can bring these guys along with me and do those things. And the only reason that I'm mentioning Bird here, and Magic would fit in this career also because after Magic was done playing, he coached the Lakers for
Yeah.
3 weeks or whatever it was before they realized he can't coach. Bird went from being the best player in the league to then being an absolutely phenomenal coach afterwards too. I mean, those Reggie
Mhm.
Miller teams in the late '90s with the
Yeah.
Pacers are legendary. Um, and that's a really difficult thing because when I think about the great, great, great players that I've ever had, I don't think any of them would turn out to be a good coach because there is something about this wasn't that easy for me. And therefore, I have to instruct and appreciate that people are going to make mistakes in this process as they try to get better. Whereas I look around the league, Penfield, Victor, Fairport, none of these guys were superstar players when they played. And
Mhm.
I think there's something about that idea that makes Bird a little bit unique for me in that discussion about great player turns into great coach. But it really has been a treat. For me, it's a walk down memory lane. You and I talked on the phone a couple of days
Yeah.
ago. I was at peak sports at that point. In '98
Mhm.
when they won the title, I was 22 years old. I am watching every baseball, basketball, football game at every possible level, college and pro. I'm watching NASCAR. I'm watching golf.
Cool.
Sports. And it really has taken me back to a place where, yeah, Gary Payton in '96, Hornacek, Stockton, and Malone in '97 and
Mhm.
'98. And that was the wheelhouse of sport for me. And I didn't appreciate any of the stuff going on in this documentary when it was happening. I didn't know the amount of tension. I don't remember Jerry Krause talking about how we're not going to bring Phil back, we're going to blow this
Yeah.
whole thing up. I don't remember any of that stuff. I just
Mhm.
remember watching the games. And the games were must-see TV, without a question.
Yeah, just watching the documentary, just seeing the pure domination of one player having on a whole team. I don't think we've seen that like ever, and I don't think we'll ever see that because I don't think players today would respond well to that leadership style. And
I agree.
granted, I don't think anyone would want to play like that. Like looking back, he got the job done 6-0 in the finals, so you can't really say or knock on him for being
Yeah,
that way.
and again, we were talking about this a couple of days ago. There's that famous scene in the movie Miracle in which they
Mhm.
play the game in Norway and they tie, and Herb Brooks keeps him out there on the ice and just sends him down and back and down and back. And for a lot of us that are coaching right now, we grew up playing for coaches like that.
Mhm.
That were hard as nails, that did not really cultivate the relationship, that were dictators on the court or whatever field or wherever it is that you played. And you're totally right. That style doesn't work anymore.
Mhm.
The minute that I would ask you guys to do that, you do it maybe twice down and back, and pretty much, you're going to walk out of the gym and not come back. It really, and I don't know if old school tough is what anybody really wants to aspire to be anymore. I
Mhm.
think about when I'm watching Steve Kerr talk
Yeah.
um, throughout this, I'm thinking about what it has to be like playing for him at Golden State. It
Mhm.
seems like it would be a meeting of equals in the room
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than I'm the coach and I'm telling you what you have to do right now.
Mhm.
And I think Phil Jackson might have been one of the pioneers in doing that
Oh,
because
yeah,
I felt
definitely.
like as much as I've learned about the triangle offense and what they were trying to accomplish on the court, so much of it, especially in handling Rodman, was about managing personalities and making sure the personalities fit together because the talent was clearly there, but
Mhm.
making sure the personalities fit. And I think that really is, I guess, the model of what a modern day coach is supposed to do.
So do you think that leadership style, like obviously it's not around now, and seeing LeBron kind of take a different approach with his teammates, but he's not been as successful in the finals, do you think that's what really hurts him when he gets to the finals, or is it something else?
I think it's something else. I mean, let's think about first of all some of the final series that he lost.
Yeah.
His first Cleveland team had no business being.
Yeah.
They lost their way into the finals because the Celtics were hurt that year and they wound up
Mhm.
getting through. I think they beat Orlando
Yep.
Something like that, I think, yeah.
with Dwight Howard on the way through. So I'll put a pause on that one. Losing to Golden State, there's no shame in that. There's no doubt about
Mhm.
that. And Dirk Nowitzki went off. Losing to the great San Antonio teams, there's no shame in that.
Mhm.
I think really the accomplishment is being in the finals 8 consecutive years rather than
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
he only went 3-5 or whatever the record actually is for him when he's been in the finals.
Mhm.
I don't think it's about leadership. I think it's about more often than not, he's been on a team that just wasn't as talented.
Yeah.
As the guys he was competing against, and certainly his greatness is not in question. I mean, to
Oh, yeah,
carry
definitely.
that far, and they're going to build the statue outside of the arena in Cleveland at some point.
Mhm.
It's going to be the statue
Definitely.
blocking Iguodala at the
Yeah.
in that series, and that's the
Insane.
signature moment of I am going to take over this entire series, and I am going to will this clearly not as talented team to a
Mhm.
championship. So I think really it's not about his leadership style; it's around, it's the cast of characters around him.
Yeah.
And it sounds
Hey,
like
but
you definitely believe like MJ. Sorry, it's like MJ is above LeBron for you. I was curious, is there anything that LeBron could do for his carear? Like, is it just winning now? If he wins 3 more rings, he gets 6 rings. He's above MJ for you, or is it just there's nothing?
I don't think there's anything he can do at this point in his career, and I think part of this might also be, and I don't want to get all existential on everyone right here, but there is a way that you think about the first girl you were in love with that you don't necessarily think about anybody after that in the same way. And MJ, and I say that because MJ was the first legitimate, undisputed superstar, best player. All right, well, if we can shoot 65% from the field for the next 4 years and get his shooting percentage somewhere close to MJ, I might buy into that. But then we start to get into levels of greatness. And yeah, the Mount Rushmore conversation is always the one that's out there.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, he's
Yeah.
on it. In my lifetime, it's him, Kobe, and MJ. I saw Bird and Magic as they were on the downslope of their careers. I can appreciate exactly what they did. Iverson was phenomenal,
Yeah.
and certainly there's this generation of guys. I mean, where does Tim Duncan fit? Where does Dirk fit? And
Mhm.
just all these guys that are close. But I guess to say the short version of a long answer, it's MJ.
Yeah. See, like same thing for us. Like we, like you just said, we never saw MJ play, but this Last Dance kind of gave us a glimpse of what took place. But I couldn't say like MJ is better than LeBron because I've only seen LeBron play live.
Right.
Like I've seen it throughout. Like he's always been my favorite player, and I think the same thing you're saying is probably going to translate to me. Like once he retires, and like Zion or Luka Doncic or somebody comes up, I wouldn't be able to say like I saw LeBron's greatness live.
And
Exactly.
the further away you get from his career, the better he's going to be in your memory also.
Yeah.
Because you're going to remember the three against Orlando, the block against Golden
Yeah.
State. You're not going to remember the night that he went 5 for 18 against New Jersey. Yeah, you're not going to remember that stuff. So that's part of that about sports. I think is one of these generational things.
So we settled the MJ LeBron debate. That was pretty easy to shut down. I think his leadership, like just thinking back again, his leadership is just something I just can't over. Like, it's amazing to watch, but I feel like being put into that system, being demanded 24/7 in the process, I think it's horrible. But then you see the Last Dance, everyone afterwards talking about, oh, now we know, like what he wanted us. So I don't think they really enjoyed the process, but they knew what they got out of it, which was obviously 6 championships, which is amazing.
I'm looking at guys like Bill Wennington and go, oh, you got 3 rings, buddy. You know, it's amazing. he was able to drag you along to get through